Hi, this is Mike Essen, South Florida's conservative voice. Insurance is life or death. It is that important an issue. And who better to talk to about it today than Randy Ray, Chairman of Senior Consumers of America. Randy, welcome back to the Mike Essen Show.
Hey, I'm glad to be with you. Let me see if I can turn this thing sideways. I see that you're sideways, so maybe I can go side. There we go. Look at
You
that.
look great. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, you know what? Gee whiz, I didn't look too great right then.
You're doing fine. You're fine. You're fine. You're fine.
I did. All right, here we go. Now we're good.
Pleasure to be with you, Randy.
Yeah, it's good to be with you, Mike. It's been a long time since we have talked.
You're a gentleman and a scholar. It's great having you back. Let me ask you some questions, Randy.
Yes,
Homeowners
sir.
insurance rates have flattened during hurricane season. And Florida is the only place it's happening. Why?
Well, I think the reason for that is because in 2023, with the legislative session that dealt with tort reform, it dropped so many of the it dropped so many of the frivolous lawsuits, and that was what was driving rates up in Florida. You'll remember that Florida was considered by the Association of Tort Reform, the American Tort Reform Association. Florida was considered a hellhole. It was one of the worst places in America for property insurance, or for lawsuits, I should say, because it was such a litigious place. Well, in 2023, Governor Ron DeSantis took that on head on, and what he did was there was a massive legislative session. In my opinion, Mike, it was the most consequential state legislative session that I could even imagine. And certainly, I've never known one more consequential in my life and time. Well, what happened is all of the frivolous, or many of the frivolous lawsuits that were being filed, began to go away. In fact, in 2024, they were down by 23%, and then that's talking about lawsuits, and then down another 25% in 2025. Now, that's the reason that the insurance market has stabilized and has begun to decrease in the state of Florida, not just in homeowners, but also in automobile insurance as well. It all is tied to that one thing, and that one thing has tied up this state for 100 years or so. And but now it is seriously on the mend. We're not everywhere that we need to be, but I will tell you this: there used to be a Tarleton cigarette, and their slogan was, "You've come a long way, baby." Well, we've come a long way here in the state of Florida regarding tort reform, and that has helped everybody's pocketbook, Mike.
I give you more than credit. I thank you so much for the great work you do. You referred to the lawsuit reforms of 2023 there were naysayers, but 3 years later, lawsuits dropped 23% in 2024 and 25% in 2025. How close is that related to litigation and tort reform?
Well, I think it's tied just at the hip. It's the litig. I have let me give you a little narrative here.
Mhm.
I renegotiated my automobile and homeowners insurance, and I did that within the last couple of weeks. And my homeowners insurance, while everybody else's has been going down 6, 7, 8, 10% on both homeowners and auto, and companies are coming back into the state, about 20 new companies in the state. While all of that's going on, most homeowners insurance and most automobile insurance is going down. It's trending down. And my insurance, and I don't want to rat them out because they're good insurance companies, but they hadn't moved. Well, I called them, and I said, "Hey, look, I've got a couple of questions, and I want to know, first of all, why my automobile insurance is as high as it is." And the lady said to me, she said, "Well, sir, it's related to your age," which I didn't like to hear, but I mean, it's kind of like Popeye. I am's what I am, So,
Like that.
so that what could I say about that? But then she said, "Now, regarding your homeowner's insurance, that's because of hurricanes in Florida. And I said, ma'am, look, that's really not the reason. Let me explain to you what happened in the state of Florida over the last 3 years. And I
Mhm.
gave her some information regarding tort reform. I talked to her about the roofing scam issue that was going on 3 years ago that is spotty now, but it is not rampant the way that it is. And the the amount of insurance claims has just taken a nosedive. And that nosedive is directly the reason for the drop in these rates. Now, I will say this: you still have to shop your rates, and the reason you have to shop your rates is because that it's let the buyer beware. We always have to look out for ourselves. And I represent Senior Consumers of America, and I say this to seniors
Right.
all the time: look out for yourself. Don't wait for somebody else to look out for you. So I got online. I got to looking at some things and comparing various insurance companies, and I found an insurance company that rated just as well as the one I had, and I found a homeowners insurance company that rated higher than the one I had. And so I shopped them. And guess what I did? I saved $1,000 annually. And so there's
Mhm.
every, regardless of what goes on in Tallahassee, Mike, everybody has to continue to look out for themselves. And that's what this old boy did. I just looked out for myself. And I encourage those people who are listening or watching to look out for themselves, because the reality is you're the one that's spending the money. So you got to watch your wallet.
Perfectly said. Let's say, God forbid, I say it 1,000 times, the legislature rolls back the 2023 reforms. What would it look like?
Well, you know, uh, that's letting the camel's nose back under the tent, and it will not be long until the camel is standing in your tent, making a mess in your tent, stinking up your tent, and we're going to be right back where we were. I will tell you this: the litigation attorneys, the billboard lawyers, they want it to be rolled back. They definitely want it to be rolled back. But to my knowledge, we're going to hold steady, and we've got good leadership in the state of Florida. And I think we've got good leadership coming in the state of Florida. I don't know, but I think that we do, by
Mhm.
those people that are running, and we've got some good candidates that are running, and we can't let ourselves go back. We just can't do it. You know what? That's like a guy losing 50 pounds and saying, "Man, this is awesome. I've lost 50 pounds. Let me eat a whole cake." You can't do that. You have to say, all right, how did I get here, and how do I stay in this good place? Well, the way you got there was by tort reform, and the way we stay in that good place in the state of Florida is holding to those tort laws the way that they have been changed, and making even bigger changes. There are more changes that need to be made.
What changes are those? Can you please tell us?
Well, let me give you one. I'll just give you one change, and
Sure.
this could blow your ever loving mind.
Mhm.
There's a thing called third party lawsuit financing, and here's what that means. That means that Mr. King and Mrs. King, who live across the street, they have a situation where uh, they have been wronged and went to the hospital and da da da, and so they need to get a lawyer. They get a lawyer, and the lawyer says, okay, now I've got a $10,000 retainer that you need to pay. And they said, well, you won't just take. He said that you've got to pay the retainer. I have to pay my employees, so you've got to pay the retainer. They said, we can't afford the retainer. He said, would you be interested in me getting you some help for that? I can get somebody to actually finance your lawsuit, and they'll put that money up. Now, you'll need to share what you get with them, and they'll probably want 51% of the proceeds, so that they will have a say in how this goes. And he'll say, so they'll have a say, but that's not what they want. They want control of what happens. And so Mr. King says, well, you know what? I didn't have anything this morning when I woke up. Yeah, let me do that. And so The lawyer says, okay, I'm going to get it done for you. The lawyer goes out and he finds financing, and he calls Mr. King back, says, good news, I'm taking your case. I've got the $10,000 retainer in hand. I've got some papers for you to sign, and we'll move forward. Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. No one, no one involved in the lawsuit, the settlement, or anything has a right to know who that third party is that's doing the financing. And that third party can be a number of people. I'll give you, I'll give you a scenario that will shake you up a little bit,
Hmm.
and that is that China can be financing the third party.
Oh
Uh,
my.
that Venezuela, that any country or anybody in any country can be financing that. And I can assure you, there are business people in China right now that are tied in with attorneys in the state of Florida. And whenever a lawsuit comes and the person cannot afford the lawsuit, then what they do is they say, all right, we'll finance it for them. And so with that third party financing comes all kinds of problems. And those problems, Mike, uh, those problems are, they have international implications. And a
Oh
lot of,
boy.
well, think about this.
I agree.
Uh, it may be that the guy in China or whoever's, it may not. Let's just say it's China. That the person or the entity in China that has financed this lawsuit, they really don't care about the settlement. What they care about is messing with the legal system in the United States of America, specifically in the state of Florida. And so they get their toe, or go back to the camel. They get their nose under the tent, and it's not
Hmm.
long until they're completely controlling. So the uh, uh, the party that the plaintiff, Mr. King, Mr. and Mrs. King, they're offered a settlement, and that settlement is $200,000. And they say, yeah, we'd like to take that settlement. Well, we're going to have to ask the third party financer because they have the majority of this case now. Um, okay. And the third party financer says, no, no, we don't want to do that. We want $500,000, or we want $1.25 million, whatever it may be. And Mr. and Mrs. King doesn't realize that whether it's $1.25 million, the 200,000, or whatever it is, they're not, there's going to be taken out of that. First of all, there's going to be taken out the legal fees, and then they're going to get less than half of what the award is because it was financed by somebody who wanted to control the case. So that third party financing, that's a problem, Mike, and it needs to go away.
I'm glad you told me that. What else can reduce insurance rates during the 2026 hurricane season, Randy?
Uh, you have to do the common things and the common sense things. First of all, you protect your home. You do all of those kinds of things. Uh, but as far as you personally, what I would say is I go back to what I said earlier. People have to advocate for themselves. They have to say, okay, I'm going to look into my own homeowners situation. I'm going to look into my own liability insurance. I'm going to look into that. And they need to constantly be looking at it. This is this is not the day. This is not Leave It to Beaver times. This is this is a time that when it was Leave It to Beaver, you could go to old Ward Cleaver, and Ward would write you all the insurance you wanted, and you say, well, I got to get a different policy. Well, call Ward. He's going to take care of you. It's not like that anymore. Now you have to shop all of the time because everything is ebbing and flowing. So they have to look out for themselves, Mike.
Please tell us more about your organization, Senior Consumers of America.
Well, first of all, I want to give you our website. See, it's one long word, seniorconsumersofamerica.org. Okay.
Hmm.
No spaces, no dots, no slashes, no nothing. Seniorconsumersofamerica.org. And go in there and sign up for our newsletter, get to know us a little bit, become part of our community. And I will tell you what we do. We look out, most of the issues that we look out for are not just particular to seniors, but they have a particular application to seniors. For instance,
Mhm.
all of this tort reform has a lot of implication and application to seniors, and we had to deal with it. Did you know that in the state of Florida, there are 4 million citizens over the age of 65? Did you
Didn't
know
know that.
that's 20% of the population of the state of Florida? And so whatever is done in Tallahassee is going to affect 20% of the population. And that population, for the most part, the old saying, well, they're on a fixed income. I say this: a lot of seniors aren't on a fixed income, they're on a diminishing income because
Mhm.
they have saved up somewhat a 401k, they've got some social security, but that 401k may be shrinking every year instead of growing
Mhm.
every year. And so we have to look for hospital issues, healthcare issues. There's a doctor shortage in Florida, and the whole litigation thing helped create an atmosphere whereby doctors return to Florida and not leave Florida. So, I mean, we talk about the free state of Florida, Mike.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yes,
California, New York, New Jersey, Illinois, they're moving to the state of Florida. And they're moving in droves to the state of Florida. I was on the phone with somebody the other day, and they lived in California. And she said, "My state's moving to your state." I said, "Yeah, I know. I know." I said, "They're in my neighborhood." And they are, which is fine, as long as they leave their politics in California and New
I
York.
agree
And
with you on that.
yeah, so as long as they do that. But the state of Florida is growing exponentially, and one of the reasons that, and I know we're not really talking about this today, but one of the reasons that the governor has proposed and the legislature passed the $250,000 homestead exemption was because that Florida is growing so much that the revenue is such that we really should do something about those people that have been here for a long time, and they continue to see their taxes go up and up. And so that homestead exemption was, and it's going to be voted on in November. So the population of Florida will decide what has to be done with it. And I'll say this, Mike. Um, there's some things that need to be looked into for that. I mean, for instance, we need to make sure that obviously that schools are properly cared for, and there was a carve out for schools. We need to make sure that public health is cared for. I don't know what town you're in. South Florida, right?
Pembroke Pines in Broward
Yeah,
County. Yes.
yeah. One of the largest hospitals in the nation is in Miami. It's called Jackson Health Systems.
No, very
Jackson,
well.
yeah, Jackson Memorial Hospital is the third largest public hospital in the United States of America. It's massive. Well, public hospitals take care of who? Well, they typically take care of people who do not have the appropriate insurance and so on. And you can't leave folks bleeding in the street. You have to take care of them. So, there's going to have to make sure that public health is cared for and those kinds of things. But overall, this homestead exemption, I think, is going to be a positive for the state of Florida.
And just to clarify, voting yes means we reduce it. Voting no means you don't reduce it, right?
That's
Vote
right.
yes
Yeah,
on three.
yeah. That's right. That's exactly right. And it's nothing to be afraid of. Well, I'll give you this scenario. We talked about people moving here. So somebody in Los Angeles, California, moves to St. Johns County, Florida. That's where I live, St. Johns County.
Mhm.
And evidently, we're the hottest county in Florida because they just keep coming here. And so they moved to St. Johns County. In um, they sell a house in California, in Los Angeles, for $2 million,
Mhm.
and it's got about 2,600 square feet. And so they come back down here and they go to St. Johns County. They say, "I want a brand new house, but I want it the same size, and they want it in my neighborhood." And that house in my neighborhood now, it was not like that when I bought here 5 years ago, but that house in my neighborhood now, $750,000 to $800,000. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of
Mhm.
money. But you know what? They don't care because they just got $2 million for their house. So
Mhm.
they come in here and or they buy my house. They buy my house and they pay that kind of money for it. Well, I have the 250,000 homestead exemption. And so I move to another house and I take that homestead exemption with me. Guess what happens here? There is no
Right.
homestead exemption on this house any longer because
Interesting.
the new people came in and they bought it at well over what I paid for it. So at least for 3 years, they're going to be paying a top out amount. And then by the time it's reduced 250,000, they're going to be back to about what I was paying. So it's really it's a very interesting scenario that I think if it works here, it's going to catch on all over the nation.
Yeah, yes, vote for me. Audience, vote yes on three. Randy, thank you so much for coming on. I thank you more for the work you do. Please give out your website or tell me how people can find you on social media, your organization, or you.
All right. Yeah. Just go to seniorconsumersofamerica.org. One word. Don't put a space. Don't put a dot. Just seniorconsumersofamerica.org. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate you having me on today.
My pleasure, Randy. Have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful year.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Bye.